Hey, Kyro here. Today we're going to be taking a look at double piston extenders and monostable circuits. But we can't really go over that without first explaining what quasi-connectivity is. And thankfully it's a lot simpler than its name suggests. Quasi-connectivity is a property of dispensers, droppers, and pistons that allows them to be activated by anything that would activate the space above them, no matter what's actually in that space. Today we'll be focusing on pistons as an example, but just know that the same applies to dispensers and droppers. As illustrated in ilmango's video, which is linked in the description, the easiest way to visualize this is to do the redstone lamp test. You just put a redstone lamp on the block above a piston, and if the lamp is ever on, then the piston is powered through quasi-connectivity. As you can see here, all of these are powered through quasi-connectivity. These are being powered by quasi-connectivity because we are powering the block above them, even though there's nothing there. Now, keep in mind that these all have to be updated after they're quasi-powered. In these cases, the comparator, the redstone dust, and the repeater all update the piston themselves, but right here you can see we're powering the block, but the piston does nothing until we cause it an update. And then again, whenever it's unpowered, it does nothing until we cause it an update. This is what a block update detector or bud switch is, so anytime you hear me or anybody else talking about buds or bud switches, now you know it's just a piston powered by quasi-connectivity. Pretty simple. Now, moving on. Okay, hopefully that made sense. If not, go back over that section of the video, or there's a link to ilmango's video that explains quasi-power again in the description. TLDR, if you power the space above a piston, the piston is powered even if there's not a block there. Alright, on to monostables. A monostable circuit is used to detect when redstone activates or deactivates and gives a short pulse as the output instead of a steady power source. There's three types, so let's take a look at them in action now. The first is known as a dual edge monostable or a dual edge detector. As you can see, when we press the button we get two quick pulses instead of a longer single pulse, and this is known as a dual edge because it detects the rising edge, which is the button being pressed in, and the falling edge, which is the button releasing itself, and gives a separate output for each one. This one's pretty easy to build. As you can see, it's literally just an observer running out into a block, and it just detects the update on this button here. So whenever it presses in, that's one update. We get a quick pulse. Whenever it comes back up, that's another update. We get another quick pulse. The next we'll talk about is the rising edge monostable circuit. Unlike the last one, this one will give us a output when the button is pressed, but not whenever it's released. This is achieved by running a redstone signal into a block that's above a sticky piston. Whenever this block above the sticky piston is powered, this repeater is allowed to pull signal from it, but as soon as it's powered, it's also powering this block, which pushes our sticky piston up, cutting off the power. So we get a one-tick output. The last we'll take a look at is the falling edge monostable. This one detects when the button is released or the signal is turned off. This one's built the same way as the rising edge monostable, except for we replace the block on top of the sticky piston with an observer facing into this redstone dust. Now, observers have one tick of delay whenever they update behind them, so we can safely cause an update in front of it and power this block to push the piston, and it won't have time to update this repeater until it comes back out, and then it'll give us a one-tick update on the retraction. So now that you know how monostables work, at least in theory, we can move on to some fun stuff. Double piston extenders. I have three compact observer-based designs to show you, using the observers as monostable circuits. Keep in mind there's a ton of double piston extender designs. I'll cover a lot more of them in a later video, but in this episode I just want to help you understand the inner workings of the circuit, because no matter how you build them, they'll have the same components. First we have the horizontal extender. To build this one we simply need to have some blocks like this, button on here, dust here, and our double pistons. Use sticky pistons for this. Normal pistons won't retract the block. Then we take two observers running into each other like this, and then as you can see we get our output. Now let's take a look at how this thing works. So I'm going to use levers to try to explain how this circuit is powering things in what order. So when we press this button, our redstone dust is activating, powering this block here. Now one tick after this observer is going to quasi-power this space here. As you can see, we don't have a piston there, so nothing happens, but it is powered. Now this one tick later, is going to quasi-power this one for one tick, which will spit out our block. Then we're going to have the redstone dust deactivate. Again, this is going to quasi-power right here, and then quasi-power right here. So then whenever we press it again, we get the same thing. Quasi power, boom, quasi power, quasi power. And that's how this design works. Next up, we have a vertical flush with the floor design. Now, this is going to be 4 deep with the 4th block on top going to be your floor level, okay? Now we're going to build this with a button with our redstone dust running into a block with 2 sticky pistons on top of it, and then 2 observers running up the side like this, with your floor being right here, and that's going to be it. As you can see, when we press it, we get our double piston extension, and press it again for our retraction. Now let's take a look at how this one works. This design is literally the same as the horizontal, we just flipped it 90 degrees, so it's facing upwards. So as you can see here, we power this block whenever the redstone's activated. We get a tick of power right here, and then we get a tick of power right here. It's actually on this side, but I put the levers over here, that way you can see the circuit right next to it. So then we have the retraction, tick of power, tick of power. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's very simple, compact, easy design to build, and it's tileable right next to each other. Lastly is the flush with the ceiling design. This one is a bit different than the other 2 designs, and it's also 4 tall. The bottom block is being your ceiling level. Now to build this, we're going to take a block with our button or our power source on it. And we're going to have our observer face down like this, with 2 sticky pistons right next to it. Take a block on that, that's your ceiling. And a block out like that with redstone dust on top of it. And then we use a repeater right here to update this observer 1 tick delay, and also to quasi power this piston. As you can see, whenever we press the button, we get our extension and our retraction. So to explain this one, it's pretty easy. Whenever we activate this redstone repeater, we're going to quasi power this piston and update it with the repeater. And so it'll be extended like this. 1 tick later, our observer will update this redstone dust here, as well as this block will be powered, and it'll give us a 1 tick output. Now this will be turned off, meaning we get the retraction here, and a tick later we're going to get another pulse out here. That's our extension. Now on our retraction, it's going to do the exact same thing, and that's our retraction done. Okay guys, so today we covered quasi power, monostable circuits, and double piston extenders. If you found this video helpful, leave a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like the channel. The next redstone video will cover redstone timings, and we'll be building some really cool projects together, so be sure to check it out. As always, my name is Kyro, this has been Redstone Ready, and I'm out. I'll see you next time.